Today we have a guest and we're sharing all of our favorite U.S. spring break destinations. Welcome to Vacation Mavens, the podcast that brings you travel inspiration and practical tips from two moms who know how to plan the perfect trip.
I'm Tamara from Your Time to Fly.
And I'm Kim from Stuffed Suitcase. With over 40 years of travel experience between us, we're here to share our favorite destinations from road trips to cruising, theme parks, and European adventures.
Whether you're planning a family vacation or a mom getaway, we have the tips and tricks to make memories that will last a lifetime.
So today we have our friend Nidra from Adventure Mom with us, and she's going to be sharing some of her favorite spring break destinations. She loves sharing new places that she journeys and how to have attainable adventures for every season in life. So welcome, Nidra. We're so happy to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Today,
Kind of
before
fun to
we
look at three pictures now on the screen instead of just the two of us.
Yeah, if you're watching YouTube, this will be a fun new editing method for me. So if you guys are still thinking about spring break, I recently saw, I don't know if you saw this, Tamara or Nidra, that Expedia shared some travel trends for 2024, especially about flights. And they said actually March is the most expensive month to buy airfare. So I found that kind of surprising. And supposedly August is the cheapest. Do you guys think that seems right? Does that hold true?
I don't know about August because that seems like such a prime time still.
I think, right?
I guess it would depend on the week because here kids are going back to school about the second week of August. So maybe it just depends on people getting in their last minute trip.
Maybe.
Yeah, and I find spring break varies. We have it in March, but a lot of times actually here in Rhode Island and Massachusetts, it's in April.
Yeah.
So it can
that's
really
what ours
have
is here.
that 6-week span that could be spring break.
Yeah. Before we jump into the spring break destinations, I wanted to remind everyone a little tip. So if you're still planning a spring break getaway and maybe you're open to some of these destinations we are going to bring up today, don't forget that Google Flights has a really useful tool where if you're just looking for a cheap air deal, you can put in your destination or you can put in your originating airport. So say for me, I would put in Seattle, and you can put anywhere in the destination and it's going to give you a map with prices, and you can put in your spring break dates when you want to travel, and it'll help you find prices for different destinations. Useful little travel tip for you if you're open to where you want to go and just looking for a good deal.
Yeah, it's a good tip. One thing that I've learned is that whenever your spring break is, the airlines know it, and from your destination, it's going to be more expensive. Because there are many years where we would go down to Florida and it just was crazy. That's when we started to go to Europe for spring break because we found cheaper flights than going to Florida. But we have done Florida a bunch for spring break. And one of the places that I really liked was the Florida Keys. And Kim, you and I were there on a road trip in the summer. And if you recall, it was just a little hot and humid when we were there.
Little.
Yeah. So one of the things I liked about spring break time is that it's just not oppressively humid like that. And the weather is really perfect. It was beautiful. We stayed at Hawks Cay Resort, which is in Duck Key, which is near Marathon. And it's such a great family resort. And then from there, you can take day trips. You can either stop at Key Largo on your way down. You can take a day trip down to Key West, or you can split your trip up between two things. But I think if you like Hawks Cay is really great. That's when we went parasailing, which people may remember me telling that story on the podcast before. And in Key West, there's all kinds of different water activities. It's not so much for beaches, but it's if you like water activities and pools, it's a great place.
I love the Keys. I would love to go back there.
So Nidra, what about you?
We'll start with Daytona Beach, New Smyrna, as an option. So it's not what you probably have pictured from years past. So maybe if you grew up in the 90s and you thought about spring break and TV, it's not that anymore. And it hasn't been since we were in high school. So it's a very family-friendly destination to be able to go to. And there's a lot of variety for things to do. So there's eco boat tours you can take. There's also, we did pedal kayaking, which was really fun. We saw a lot of manatees at Ponce River Inlet. So that was really nice.
I haven't done that yet. That's one of my dreams.
Yeah, it was amazing. You can climb to the top of the lighthouse and do that. You can do a Daytona truck tour. So you can go on the speedway. You can get an opportunity to sign your name on the finish line, things like that. If someone's a race fan, there's a lot of opportunities there. And a lot of great dining, and you can drive on the beach. So that's just something different that you can't do at other destinations necessarily. So it's really fun just to be able to take your car out And if you have younger kids, you don't have to unpack your stuff to go to the beach because you can have it all in your car
Oh,
and then
good
you're already on the
point.
beach.
That's nice. I didn't even think about that. That's a
I will
good
Yeah,
say
tip.
so that's pretty beautiful.
that's the one thing that I remember. Two things I remember about Daytona Beach. One was we visited once. My like first major family road trip was when I was 12. We drove from New Jersey to Florida in an unair conditioned car in the middle of the summer. We went to Orlando and then we stopped at Daytona Beach, and I just thought it was so cool that you could drive on the beach. And then when I was in college, since I'm a little older than you guys, I actually went to Daytona Beach and saw that whole MTV craziness. So it's
Yeah,
really good to know that
MTV.
that's not the scene anymore, because it wasn't even the scene for me when I was 20 years old.
Yeah, I would.
Although
That would be what I would
one of my
avoid.
friends met her husband at Panama City spring break Club Looky Flat, and they're still married. So you just never know.
That's a shocker for sure.
That's good to know because I think there is that bad rep that a lot of Florida destinations get for spring break. And I know that I've seen some where the destinations are trying to overcome that. So it's good to know that maybe people need to give it a shot, not have those our 90s, 80s, and 90s memories locked in.
Yes, I know they say like they've grown up too. So you
Oh,
just kind
yeah.
of see the destinations growing up. There's some other things as well, and it's definitely family focused.
Yeah, I love that
Nice.
tagline.
I know that you guys both are bringing up Florida ones, and a popular destination that's out of Florida is Caribbean cruises. And I think they are very popular spring break getaways. So, technically, not a destination on their own, but you can go to a lot of destinations as long as you fly out of one of the many ports of call in that Florida, even New Orleans and Texas has some that go out at spring break. So I think a Caribbean cruise is a great spring break getaway. The weather is normally really nice. You're not dealing with hurricane or anything. So it's a little bit of a flexible where you don't have to worry about any cancellations. You can pretty much book and head out. And I just think it's a really good getaway. I did it with Lizzie last year on a Holland trip, and just really, I would say definitely expect more kids. So when you're picking the cruise ship that you're going to be on, expect pools to be busy, hot tubs to be busy, things like that. So look at those spaces if it matters for you, how they can handle families and kids. But otherwise, it's, I think, one of the best spring break getaways.
Yeah, I feel like we're going to need to link to some of our previous episodes in the show notes, because we did some. You did that one. You did the one that was from New York and stopped.
Yeah,
and
that was
went down
so
to
fun.
Florida.
Yes, that
Yeah,
was a
so
great spring break. I remember that one.
and I like that New York to Florida option one for
Yeah,
people that live in the Northeast, because then you avoid that flight, but you also avoid the fact that maybe you could get snowed in and not make that flight, you know?
absolutely. Yeah, and you get more
Yeah.
time on the ship, which can be fun for sometimes the kids just want to play, especially on a bigger ship. They just want to play on board. Yeah.
Yeah. Going away from the beach to talk about cities, I was thinking about Washington, D.C. I know everybody thinks about the cherry blossom season, and it is really, it's a great time to be there. It is going to be super crowded, but with a lot of the museums, at least like the Holocaust Museum, the African American Museum, there's quite a few attractions you can buy the tickets. Why can't I think of the word for that? Like
Admission?
the timed entry
Oh,
tickets.
timed entry. Okay.
Yeah, so that helps a little bit. But the other good thing is, even while Washington, D.C. can be a little pricey, it has all those so many free attractions
Yeah.
between just walking along the mall, seeing the monuments, going into all the museums. There's so much to do. You can rent bikes and ride along the basin. You can even stay a little further out because it has such a good metro system as well. And I think that makes a great spring break destination, even though I tend to want to avoid crowds. And I know that's prime season. It's a really pretty time to be there.
I have an embarrassing admission to admit to. I have still never been to Washington, D.C.
I mean, you
at
live in
all.
Washington State. It's
I
pretty
know.
far away. You
Yeah.
shouldn't be too embarrassed.
I feel like it seems so many people I know, it's the token trip that so many people do, and I still haven't been. But yeah, seems.
And
And
it's
I
beautiful
feel
in the
like
spring.
I bet there's probably a lot of hotel options as well. But so even with increased prices, maybe there's a little bit of competition. So if you do last minute planning, that's something we should consider is how easy it is to book things last minute.
I stayed at the campground there and then taken public transportation in. That's very easy to use. If someone wants to camp within the area, we did that as a summer trip, but it's doable. So,
Interesting.
and then you don't have to worry about driving in.
Yeah, that's a great tip.
Good tip. So what about you, Nidra? What do you have else? What other destinations can you offer
Okay,
up?
well, I guess if we're going inland, let's do the Smoky Mountains. So Gatlinburg, Pigeon Forge area is, I feel like, a great mix. So if you want to do hiking, you've got the national park right there. It's free. So that's a wonderful thing
Wow.
with Smoky Mountains National Park. You can drive Cades Cove Loop. So it's a loop that is just scenic. But my favorite way to experience is to bike it. So instead, because sometimes it can be a little bit of a traffic jam, depending
A
on if it's a
little.
gorgeous day, depending on when you go. So I recommend if you can bike instead. Now, later in the season in May, they have some car-free days too, which is really awesome. But for spring break, still you could rent bikes and just be mindful of that. I also like doing some of so you have all the nature, and then I like some of the quirky adventures too. There's zorbing. So if you don't know what that is, it's like being in a giant bubble and rolling down a hill.
Yeah.
So you
I've
can do
seen that
that.
on like Amazing Race and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Amazing Race.
So
Of course,
outdoor
boys love
gravity
all that.
park, you can try that, which is a really fun, unique experience. There's alpine slides at Obergatlinburg. So that's another unique one where you
I
can
love those.
self-brake on your way down. On mountain coasters, they have those at several different locations. Anarchista is one of my favorite stops where basically if you just want to, you're in downtown Gatlinburg, but then you take the chairlift up to the top and you're in a whole different area. You're not near the crowds. It's beautiful. They have a canopy tree walk up there. They have all the things, mountain coasters, zip lining. And another one, there's what other one? Oh, a quirky one, hillbilly golf. Another, it's just unique. It's an incline that you start at the bottom. It takes you backwards up the hill in the incline. And then it's just themed really well in hillbilly, which is fun. And so that's another great one to do while
That's
you're there.
awesome.
Oh,
I
in
bet
Dollywood
also-
for thrill seekers too.
Oh,
You got to have a theme park.
Dollywood. Yeah, that's awesome.
Hannah and I stopped for 2 nights in Pigeon Forge on our road trip back across the U.S. to bring her back to school in August, and we did the Cades Cove Loop. And they said be there before 10. I would say we got there at 10:05, and I don't know how many miles it is, but it took us over 2 hours just for a few. It was just completely stopped dancing. But we got to see bears. So part of
Mhm.
it was that they had people there, like trying to get people to keep moving and not stop and look at the bears too much. But
black bears?
yeah, black
Okay.
bears.
Yes.
Black bears aren't a
I mean,
problem. Black bears
it
are
is-
fine.
It is the most visited national park in
I
the
was
country.
that's what I was gonna say. Yeah, that's what I know about it. I'm also thinking that it seems like the type of environment that would be really bad with mosquitoes, and spring break probably doesn't have that like the summer would, I'm guessing.
For noticing mosquitoes being bad at all.
Okay.
Oh, another tip I will tell you though is as soon as you get into the national park, go to Sugarland's Welcome Center. And so I always talk to the park rangers first because they will tell you if there's any road closures, if there's any trail closures, all those things you need to know before you're going to the park. And I always ask them for the best use of my time in the park. So if you're only going to go in there for a few hours, talk to them. And then also there are trails behind that visitor center where you can see some waterfalls, smaller ones, really quickly. If your kids want to play in the creek, see some waterfalls really fast, especially if you have younger ones, it's a great stop.
That's great. That is a good tip. I've done that before where I'm like, oh, we don't really know what to do. We don't want to be in crowds. Tell us like 3 things we should do today. And they are amazing at knowing do this. And this is where you can go to get the same feel and avoid the crowds. They're really useful that people don't realize that. Speaking of going inland, I have a really popular spring break getaway, especially for us in the Pacific Northwest, and that is the Phoenix, Scottsdale, Arizona area. So there's lots of little towns. They're all interconnected around that greater Phoenix area. And I think it is an amazing spring break getaway. One of the best attractions during the spring is the Cactus League spring training. So if you are a baseball fan, then that's a great place to head. You can see some of your favorite players, not all of them, but you can definitely get a glimpse of some of your favorite players for a deal of a ticket price and have some great food. I think Tamara knows that Scottsdale is great for brunches. It's one of my favorite things to do in the Phoenix area is grab a good brunch. They also have some hiking. And of course, for the people who like to pamper themselves, there are some world-class spas in that area. So I definitely think the Phoenix Scottsdale is perfect for spring break.
Yeah, and you and I were out there, and was it April a couple of years ago? And the desert blooms are just, I think people think the desert is just so bare and dry and barren. But in the spring, it is just stunningly beautiful with all the flowers and the greenery. And it's really a great time to go because you can get out there before the crazy heat.
Absolutely. I was going to say the weather is also so perfect. You are going to pay a premium because, especially with the spring Cactus League spring training, but if you can budget for it, get a good deal on your airfare and figure out how to do it. It's just perfect for pools and relaxation. I love it. It's making me want to go right now because of the weather. We've had snow here in Seattle, so it is a popular Seattle escape. You'll see a lot of us.
Hannah
But what
told me
about
it was like 85 in Tucson this week?
Yep. Nice. I'm dreaming of that. 78 is like perfect for me.
Yeah,
So
she wants it to go
85 is
back
getting on the
down.
horn. Yeah.
Well, going with the desert theme, another good one is to use Las Vegas as a base to be able to see some national parks. So we did that for my son's senior year. We wanted him to be able to experience a lot of national parks, but we didn't want to burn up all our time driving from the Midwest to be able to get to some of the ones we wanted to see. So what we did is we flew into Vegas and did the fun Vegas-y kind of things and some outdoor adventure and bookends it on the weekends. And then midweek, we drove to the different national parks. So we went to Hoover Dam, Grand Canyon, Bryce Canyon, Zion. We did that. We hiked the Narrows at Zion, which was awesome.
Oh,
And then
wow.
on our way back, we did Valley of Fire. So we really had a great mix of outdoor adventure during the week. And then during the weekends, we
city.
did a lot of the city fun things like the Pinball Hall of Fame, which is just really fun. If you haven't been there, it's very inexpensive because you're just basically paying for the coins to be able to put in the machine. And then we also did a food tour, which my boys loved. So the savor this. Yeah. So a food tour is a great way, especially if you have older teens. I think that it's just something a little bit different. Just walking the strip's fun. The Neon Sign Museum's really cool too. Very Instagrammable. And there's tons of street art off of Fremont Street too. So that's another great one if you have a teenager who loves to be able to get really cool pictures while they're out and about.
That's a great tip. I don't think people always think of Vegas for that kind of getaway, but I have heard many people say it's great. I know they have a Top Golf there too, which I think some teens have fun
Those
with.
are a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And we also took the red eye home that Saturday night. So that was another way we extended our time on the weekend without having to get another hotel room too. We didn't have to get Saturday night. We just had a later flight and it worked out great.
You guys packed in a lot because that's covering a lot. We have a podcast episode if anyone's interested on. It's also called the what is it? Golden Circle, Grand Circle,
Grand Circle, I think.
Yeah. So a lot of people go out of Vegas and do all the Southwest national parks. They're the big five.
Right.
Nija,
13 within 7 hours too. Which is crazy.
I mean, it does sound like you packed in a ton. It sounds great.
Yeah.
Do you have an article that we can link to in our show notes about that one?
I will when this is ready.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Nice. Perfect.
It's one that I've done different bits and pieces of it, but I don't think I've ever done a full on all the way through. So I was like, I'm going to be motivated to get that ready by the time you share it.
Nice. One other place that I wanted to mention, which is unique, is I know a lot of people look at wanting to do an all inclusive, and there aren't as many all inclusive opportunities within the US. But I stayed at one a few years ago, and it's so unique and different. It's called Little St. Simon's Island, and it's off of the coast of Georgia. So it's off of St. Simon's Island, but it's like a private island that is mostly an eco preserve. So I think there's only 30 guests a night or something like that. So you can have these huge miles of beach to yourself with just like 30 other guests. They run all of these naturalist programs where they take you out to look at animals, or you can go fishing, or just different activities. They have a bunch of different cabins, and it's like staying at a ranch in that you have like family style meals, but the food was excellent. I remember the bed being incredibly uncomfortable. So it was like a really nice luxury type of feel, but in nature. You know?
Okay.
Like it feels very authentic, and I really enjoy it. I think it's something that a lot of people don't know about, and it is a little bit more on the pricier side because it's all inclusive and it has all those kind of cool activities built into it.
How do you get over there? Do they transport
They have
you?
a boat.
Yeah.
So they
That's
bring
what
you
I was
over
gonna
by
say.
boat.
Nice. That does sound like a good getaway.
Mm-hmm.
I like that you're giving an option that doesn't have crowds, because I feel like many of the options we've given are going to be busy places.
Exactly. This is where you go when you want to get away from it all. And it's also the first place that, or maybe the only place I've ever seen an armadillo. And it was very funny because I was very excited about the armadillo. And it's like the people that get excited the first time they see a squirrel, or like people are like, they're a nuisance. They're not good. I'm like, but I never saw one before. So anyway, that was
fun.
my suggestion.
Yeah. Going from a little bit of beach, but no crowds, to probably crowds, but beaches for me would be the opposite of Florida, which is going to be Southern California. I think that it's probably one of the best spring break destinations. The weather at that time of year is pretty nice. You're going to have just so many things to do in Southern California. You can do Huntington Beach if you have kids who want to learn to surf. You can go down to San Diego if you want to get that resort beachy feel. There's also that some amazing museums in San Diego. Of course, Balboa Park has their world famous zoo. You got all of that. And then, of course, you can go up to more of the Los Angeles area, which is just a wealth of activities and things to do. You don't even have to go to Disneyland. You can do so many different things. I was just looking back on an old post I had that I saw like a Harry Potter movie in concert at the Sigstrom Center that's in Costa Mesa. And that was such a fun experience that I think kids would love. And there's a massive shopping mall. So if you're going to do some summertime shopping, you can also do some of that there. There's just so many things to do. I love Southern California in a lot of ways, even
Well,
with
then
the traffic.
you and I were in Oceanside. It was a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
It was in February, but that is such a beautiful beach also for surfing or just enjoying the beach. But do you remember the dolphin watch cruise
That
that we
was
went out on?
insane. That was
Yeah,
epic. Yeah, that's amazing. And I've done a whale watching cruise out of Newport Beach as well that was the best orca experience I've had. And I live in Seattle and I've been on some in
right.
the Pacific Northwest.
Because
And
it's a good season for that,
yeah,
right?
yep, yeah. So Nidra, do you want to lead from the Southern California?
Get back to the beach at Destin, Florida. There's one of the things I like that they do is they have these adventure packs that basically families can go on their website and choose. They can look at their family ages and they'll have different adventure activities that are appropriate for their age groups. So there's a lot of variety, great even for multi-gen. So my son and I, he was a teenager where we went. So we did a dolphin catamaran, which was awesome. But a lot of other ages would have enjoyed that too. But they just have a really great way to break down a lot of the different types of tours and outdoor experiences you could have to really experience the area. But they also have basically moms who are from the area who can consult you too and be like, okay, this would be the best one for your age kids or their interests, things like that. So I think that's pretty neat. And
Makes me think of like the Disney mom panel that Disney does.
yeah,
Like they've got the
almost.
Destin mom panel.
Yes, they have their trusted moms. And we've biked on 30A, which is gorgeous. If you've ever been along that stretch, so you can stop. There's a lot of different cities along the way. So if you've ever seen the Truman Show, Seaside was like the film location for that movie. And so that's one of the places that you can stop while you're biking. We've brought our stand-up paddle boards there, which is great because it's just beautiful and the water's clear. And there's for another little fun, quirky thing there. They have a underwater themed bowling alley. So if you need an indoor activity, that's just something that's a little bit different. So everything's themed out very well. So that feels like you're bowling underwater.
Before you got to the themed part, I was like, well, how does that work?
Right.
That's good. I feel like I know so many people that love that area. And I
Yeah.
went for the first time to Sandestin, so very close by in the fall. And I just love it. And I think one other place that I want to mention is Gulf Shores or Orange Beach, Alabama, which is just a little bit further west along the coast there. And it's just that whole Gulf of Mexico is the sand is so fine because it's silica. It's super white, fine. The water is pretty clear usually. It's pretty calm. I don't like a lot of big waves knocking me around, so that makes me happy. And there's so many activities, like there's beautiful sunsets, there's dolphin watching, and just all kinds of activities. And what I found with Gulf Shores and Orange Beach is that they have amazing food. And I know I've talked about this on the podcast before, like when I've gone in years past, because I've gone a couple times, both in March and in April, and in May, actually. And beautiful, great food, and then just really fun beach bars. And you think I probably have said this line before, but it always reminds me of Sweet Home Alabama, where you have a baby in a bar. But it's really, these are very kid friendly kind of beach bars.
I
There's
love
ones
the
that
beach
have like
bars, yeah.
all the bubbles and foam parties
Hangout.
and things
Yeah.
like that. Yeah, the hangout. And
Yeah,
like
the
those
hangout, yeah.
are
I was
really
like,
fun.
that was the one place I've been.
Yeah, so that to me it was one of my top spring break destinations. And I know a lot of people know about it, but I feel like where I live in the Northeast, it's not as well known because it's a little bit harder to get to. You have to connect to get there, but definitely should put it on the radar.
I think another perk of that area is they're really well known for vacation rentals as well. So I think families, even at multi-gen, or if you're traveling with like your friends' families, your kids have friends and you're bringing them, those vacation rental like communities where it's so popular are really, that's useful. So that's a great destination.
Yeah, my younger son and I were there last spring, and my older son and I are going next month.
Oh,
back to Gulf
nice.
Shores there. Another kind of a quirky one to throw in is the e-foiling. Did you try that when you were there?
Oh, yeah.
Have you
No,
tried that
I once
before?
tried, what was that called where you put like
Yeah,
the jetpacks
flow
on your
board.
feet
Yeah, the
and
flow
you
hydro
it,
board or something. Yeah, it's called
no,
something.
yeah.
We have it
It's
here
similar to
in
Oh,
that, but it
like
was
where
like
you're
the
like Iron Man
predecessor.
when you're going up
Yes.
in the
Yep.
okay.
Yep.
It was terrifying and I was awful at it and I face planted in the water and I was like, never again. And I have all this footage from my GoPro that I was accidentally turning off every time I thought I was turning it on.
Oh
So I have all
no.
this like underwater footage of my legs just kicking and I'm like just waiting for the shark to come in and eat me. But yeah. So what is the easy
E-foil.
foil? E-foil?
If you've ever seen it, you have a little handheld remote, and if you've ever seen it where it looks like someone's almost surfing above the water, you see them zooming past you, so
It's like
that's
a
it.
hover.
But you've kind of playing at a certain point, so you have to get it. There's the sciencey part in it, but once you achieve that perfect leveling off, that's when you get the lift. So it's just you have to get it just right, and then you will lift up like sometimes a few feet off the water, which is pretty
Yeah.
incredible, and zoom around.
Yeah, it's like
My
a
son
short
was way
surfboard
better.
with a stick and then another like secondary like propeller type looking
Yeah,
We
it just
saw
thing.
kind of
people
like
Yeah.
doing that in Croatia last year when Glenn and I
There
were
you
at the
go.
beach. I will just say this is why Nidra's blog is called Adventure
Adventure
Mom
Mom.
because she is always tell us some of the crazy things that you've done. You've done so many kinds of adventures. What can people go to your site and see?
I would definitely say Zorbing's one of them. I jumped off the stratosphere. That was another kind of bigger one. I'll try just about anything. Years ago, I tried underwater hockey, which is so random. You know,
To
you
go with the
can.
underwater bowling, but actually
um,
really.
yes, I've done the luge. So
Oh
there's a public
yeah.
track that you can try it on. So I tried in the winter and the summer. Yeah, so I try a lot, but it's not that I'm so brave. I just try it scared and stupid, and I just keep on doing that over and over again.
I love it
So
though.
That's
It keeps you
great.
young. It keeps you interesting. It keeps you going.
Yeah, for
yeah, it's fun
sure.
to try.
And can you remind everybody where they can find you online
Adventuremom.com.
and on social the same?
Make it easy.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here and helping us share some more ideas. I know Kim's West Coast, I'm East Coast. We thought it'd be great to get somebody that can represent some other parts of the country as well and hear some of those
Thanks for having me.
tips.
Hopefully we have given you guys some good spring break destinations. If you have a favorite destination, would you leave us a comment or maybe DM us and let us know where you love to go? And then, of course, always, we will be back again next week with another new episode.
Bye. If you like this episode, be sure to subscribe and rate and review on your favorite podcast app, as that helps other people discover us. And if you want to see more, follow me, Tamara, at Your Time to Fly on Instagram and Facebook and all the others.
And you can follow me, Kim, at Stuff Suitcase on Instagram, Facebook, and of course my blog.